You mentioned the fake.
Uh-huh.
Don't fake it. And I'm asking this because I completely understand the counsel and advice about removing things you're ambivalent about.
Yeah.
I would just like to know, though, because I do think that there's that kindness of acknowledging people and saying hello to people and calling them by name.
Yes.
But you're talking about like authentically, aggressively liking people.
I am.
So does it backfire if you fake this?
Okay. I struggle with this one because I don't love the idea of fake it till you make it.
Me either.
Yeah. But I understand that there are folks who have to employ that tool to step into themselves. So if that's you, that's okay. If that works for you, that's okay. But fake doesn't really work. And they've actually studied this. So Dr. Barbara Wild and her associates brought participants into her lab, and she showed them pictures of people who were authentically smiling. In other words, when they took the picture, they were told, think of something that makes you happy.
Yep.
And then had people fake smile. And then they took the mood tests before and after. Everyone who saw the real happiness caught the mood. They actually had an improved mood score. Everyone who looked at the fake pictures had no mood change at all.
Wow.
So that means that if you want to be more contagious, if you want to spread positivity, likability, real authentic happiness is more contagious. However, the people who saw the fake picture did not have a worse mood. They just had no mood change at all. So the way that I would frame this is, I don't love you to be fake. It just makes you less impactful and influential. However, it doesn't have a detrimental effect on someone. And so if that's what you need to get through the day, or you're in a situation where you can't be like, well, I don't like you, so we shouldn't hang out, right? Then that's okay. It's okay to be fake to get through. But if you can, as much as possible, I think stretching into, or I put a question mark there on purpose. There are people in my life who I do have to fake it a little bit, but they're question marks. I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic that one day we'll figure it out. I'm optimistic that one day we'll find something that we both like. I think that's okay. I think being fake with hope is okay.
That I like.
Yeah.
Because what's authentic is your desire that it change for the better. So you're not being fake at all.
No.
Got it. Okay. I just loved what you shared about likability, and it makes me wonder, what about vulnerability? Does that make you more likable?
Yes. Okay. So I think there's a misconception that to be likable, you have to be perfect or you have to be impressive. And so I'm a recovering awkward person. That was me for many years, trying desperately to be perfect and be impressive and have funny stories. And that doesn't work. In fact, vulnerability is one of the fastest ways to show likability. And there was actually a study that was done on this. This is by Richard Wiseman. So what he did is he had an actress go into the mall and do a smoothie demonstration. She was selling blenders. That was her fake activity. And she did a couple of demonstrations where she made the smoothie perfectly with the strawberries and the bananas, and she blended it up and she poured everyone smoothies. And they had everyone in the mall rate her on likability. Then they had a series of them where she spilled the smoothie. Okay. She dripped it, spilled it. Oh my gosh, so sorry about that. Just one little spill, didn't make a whole thing of it, but spilled it. Everyone in those studies rated her as more likable. What a gift to know that your mistakes make you more likable. The reason for this is because we know no one is perfect. We know this. And we also know that if someone is trying to impress us, they might be trying to cover something up. And so I love the idea of likable people are not prettier, they're not more impressive. Liking more people, yes, but also approaching them with your vulnerability. So being at a wedding, trying to make friends and saying to someone, I'm starving. Even a little vulnerability. When I'm trying to make friends, when I'm uncomfortable at like a loud nightclub or a loud bar, I'm like, my feet are killing me. Are yours? Right? I think that sharing some of our fears, some of our weaknesses, that is actually a way to make everyone feel like themselves. And so being vulnerable, admitting mistakes, saying you're scared or uncomfortable, for a decade of my life, I tried to hide that I'm a recovering awkward person. And the moment that I started sharing, I am awkward, I feel awkward all the time, that's why I do this work, I felt like I could be myself. And then all these people started to tell me they feel like awkward people too. And that's when I started having real connection.
Vanessa, I am so glad that you hopped on a plane and came back. And I know that we are just getting started. And so I want to take a quick pause so we can hear a word from our sponsors who bring this to you at zero cost. And while you're listening to sponsors, I'm going to be sending this to my 3 kids. Sawyer, Kendall, and Oakley need to hear this. I know you have people in your life that need these tools and tactics, so be sure to send it to them too. And Vanessa and I will be waiting for you when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. I'm Mel Robbins. I'm so glad you're listening to this episode today because we have got the remarkable Vanessa Van Edwards. We are digging into the research around success and how you can use the habits of high achievers and influential people to level up in your own life. So, Vanessa, you can walk into a room and see who's influential, but can you teach us how to walk into a room and see somebody who's highly influential? Like
Yes.
just distinguish?
Yes. So the very first thing, and I've noticed this in a lot of rooms, from both professional rooms to social rooms to even speed dating, is typically when a person is cued or tuned into someone or aware of someone, we angle our body towards them. Now, as adults, we get pretty good at hiding this, but our toes often give us away. So typically, when I walk into a room, I like to play a little game with myself. This is how I amuse myself. I try to guess who the boss is in the room based on where people's toes are pointing. Typically, we point our toes towards the most important person in the room. That is because subconsciously our body is attuned to them, wanting to either talk to them, go towards them, or wants to read them. So whenever I'm in a room with like an influencer or a celebrity, even if it's just a mingling, I can almost always tell that everyone is like, their eye is on that influencer, that celebrity, or the boss, because their toes are pointed towards them. The only exception to this is when people have to go, you will notice their toes will shift towards the exit. It's if their brain are going, what's my escape? When can I get out of here? So one is always look at toe direction.
Okay.
It can also show you hidden crushes. Not always, but sometimes. Usually I can tell when someone has a little crushy crush on someone else based on where their toes, and that person will move, and the person's toes who has a crush on them will usually follow them, which is kind of a funny thing. So always pay attention to toes. That's the first way that we do it. The second thing is typically, not always, highly influential people claim their space. So all of this ties together. When you are assertive verbally, you are assertive emotionally, you're also assertive physically. And this has been proven. So researchers from the University of British Columbia studied athletes. And they studied athletes across genders and races. And they found that winning athletes who win a race, they take up a pride pose. This was popularized by Amy Cuddy's TED Talk, which had its own set of history. But they've actually proven that just the body language itself is repeatable. So winning athletes, they take up space, they lower their shoulders, they usually tilt their head towards the sky. And then there's 2 measurements that I think no one talks about that I want to talk about, that everyone misses. Yes, we get it. If someone walks in a room like Rocky, with their hands above their head, we get it, they feel good. But that's very socially aggressive. Like, I'm not going to advise people to walk into a room, I'm here, right? It's too much. What the 2 measurements that actually matter the most for being impactful or spotting an impactful person are the distance between our earlobes and our shoulder.
Wait, what?
I know.
The distance between
Our earlobe and our shoulder.
So right now, I think I probably have I got 8 inches, 6 inches, something like that.
And so for you, that's maxed. Try to put your shoulders down as much as possible.
Like down? Okay.
Yeah, that's the most, right?
I just want to explain because you can see this on YouTube, but basically just imagine as you're listening that we are taking our ears, try to touch your ears with your shoulders just and shrink down into your body. And that's what Vanessa's doing.
Yeah, turtle your head, put your shoulders up, try to touch your ears to your shoulders.
Yeah, look like pretend you're a teenager who's staring at your phone.
This is what happens. So as we do this, a couple things happen. One is we feel terrible.
Yes.
You feel terrible?
Yes,
it feels terrible. So it feels terrible. Also, our vocal power drops. So it's very, very hard to actually give a lot of vocal power.
Yes.
I go into vocal fry when I do this because it's very hard. So it affects your vocal power. It affects your perceived confidence, like how you feel.
Yep.
And also affects how you look, right? You look less confident. If I were to give the entire interview like this,
and you can't see her right now, and she literally
I just hunched my shoulders.
Hi, and she squeezed her shoulders up. You literally all of a sudden went from Vanessa, renowned researcher, to it's Vanessa in middle school.
Yes. This is the only difference. This one little cue completely changes your perception of me.
So for somebody who is introverted, you are like the idea of the spotlight being on you is your worst nightmare, but you do want to become more assertive, or you at least want people to look at you and go, she's confident, he's confident, they are an influential person.
Yes.
What's the body language that you can start to practice?
Okay, well, first of all, I write books for you because I believe your cues can speak for you.
Okay.
Introverts, your cues are even more important because you can use small micro cues non-verbally to speak for you, right? Okay, so for an introvert or anyone listening, you want to maximize the distance between your ear and your shoulder pretty much at all time, especially on video. Here is a classic mistake that I see all the time. Hey, everyone. Hi.
You're on Zoom and your shoulders,
are up your ears. Or you're waving hello with your shoulders up your ears. Or they walk into a date or they walk into a meeting. Morning. Your first impression is now little, small, defeated.
Here's the cue I want to give you as you're listening. If you are like, but I'm shy, but I am introverted, but I do feel awkward in those situations. I want you to think about middle school you being terrified of seeing a group of cool kids.
Yeah.
And the badass powerhouse that we know that you are inside. And I want you to imagine that your friend Mel Robbins is on one side of you and your friend Vanessa Van Edwards is on the other side of you. And I want you to pull that body language together. That's what we're talking about. Because everybody can pull their shoulders back and drop them down and stand up taller or sit up taller.
That's it.
Okay.
And that one cue creates a loop. And here's what I want you to think about. If that's you thinking, oh my gosh, I'm scared, I am awkward, you can change the loop of your awkwardness with this one cue. Why? Is if you have your shoulders down and back, it signals to your brain, I am taking up space, I'm claiming my space, which then tells your brain, okay, we're safe, we're okay. The reason why we hunch our shoulders is to protect our neck. That is why we're doing it.
That's why we do that?
Yes, it's an evolutionary cue. So if I turtle my neck down and I tilt my chin down and I hunch my shoulders up, my throat is more protected. That is a more protected gesture. So there's an evolutionary reason why we do it. So if your shoulders are down and back, your head is held high, my jugular is showing, my brain says, we're safe. If you do the opposite, you're telling your brain, we are not safe, which then makes you have more cortisol, which shuts down your thinking, which makes you have dry mouth, which makes you blush, which makes you run out of oxygen, right? It creates all those awkwardness cues. So we can stop our awkward loops by simply changing our cues. So this is the first distance, is ear to shoulder.
I want to make sure you got that. So if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to follow along. As you're listening to us, as long as you're not driving a car, I want you to actually experience what Vanessa's talking about. So I want you to will you walk us through, like you take your chin and you point it down and you put your shoulders up.
Point your chin down as if you're checking your phone.
Yep.
Now hunch your shoulders up and then turtle your ears down. So you're as small as possible. So your jugular, your neck is protected. If you sit like this, you are going to begin to feel more awkward and uncomfortable. You're going to lose oxygen.
To breathe almost.
Yes. You're going to lose oxygen. You're going to have vocal fry. And here is the biggest aha of all. That is what everyone does when they check their phone. So accidentally, multiple times a day, you are putting yourself into defeat and shame body language. Accidentally. What are you doing before a date? Probably checking your phone. What are you doing before a presentation? Probably reviewing your phone. What are you doing before? So what I want you to do is check your phone differently.
How?
Okay, so when you're holding your phone, what I want you to do is up and out.
Up and out.
Up and out.
Up and out.
Right. So when I check my phone, especially before something important, I am not hunched over with my chin tucked in and my arms tucked tightly to my chest, which we're going to talk about in a second. I am up and out. So I'm claiming my space. My phone is up so that my chin is up. My jugular is still showing. If you check your phone like this, you feel so much more confident.
It's true. I don't have my phone with me, but if like
you can look at my babies. I think there's a good picture of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I've got it up like this,
and you can even put your elbow down on the table. That's okay.
True. And now I'm like bicep flex.
You're like, wow, look how it's powerful. You look so powerful.
Like,
Mel looks so.
I'm like, I gotta pull my phone out here and check it.
That's it.
Wow. And also, like, you can still like text while you're doing that,
or you can rest your arms on the table. That's okay too. Like you're still looking out, right?
Up and out.
Up and out.
I love that. Okay, you said something about our arms.
Okay, that's
what
the
else
next
are we
cue.
doing with our arms?
Okay, so first cue, ears to shoulders. Second cue, distance between your torso and your arms. Watch this. So if you're listening, I want you to pin your arms tightly to your side, and I want you to try to roll your chest in, and then I want you to cross your arms over your chest.
Like you're giving yourself like a little hug in front.
You will begin to feel like, I'm a little nervous, I'm a little anxious, I'm a little uncomfortable. You will actually speak in shorter sentences when you sit like this. You're more likely to say no. In research, they find that when you're in closed body languages, you are more likely to say no based on this body language.
This pose, if you're not watching on YouTube, is the kind of pose you would imagine somebody sitting in a gymnasium at a dance where they haven't been asked
Yes.
to dance.
Yes. Yes.
And so as you cross your arms in front of your body and you kind of roll your shoulders forward, you do feel kind of like you're a loser.
yes. And it
Like I'm literally like, wow, I could get attacked at any time right now.
That's it, because it's a protective gesture. These all come from for a reason, right? These body language cues are not made up. The reason why they're universal, not all body language is universal, but the cues we're going to talk about today are universal. It's because there's a reason from an evolutionary perspective why this happens. So if I'm worried about someone attacking me, I want to protect my vital organs. I want to not have my flanks exposed, and I want to take up as little space as possible so no one notices me. So we forget that when we're sitting in a meeting or we're going on a date or we're trying to psych ourselves out, and we're sitting in the car and we're like, oh, I'm so nervous. We're actually creating a negative feedback loop for ourselves.
So what do we do with our arms?
Okay, so always, please make sure you are using a desk chair with armrests.
Okay.
So this chair is actually a little hard, right? So
we're getting new chairs.
Do it.
They're higher
new
arms
chairs.
too.
These are okay. We have small armrests.
You and I are both very tall.
We're
so
very
this
tall.
might work.
I know. So this is okay if you're a little bit shorter. It's okay. We have some. First of all, armrests immediately bring space. Now look at the difference between this
That's true.
and this.
And for you listening, all we're doing is moving our elbows out to the side. That's it.
So I'm actually okay. I know my mom would not be happy with me. I'm actually okay with elbows on the table if they're nice and broad. You can see space. I'm not trying to be protective. It actually broadens my chest, which gives me more oxygen, which allows me to have more vocal power. So I want you to always choose the chair with the armrest. Like when I go into pitches or I'm talking to a client, I always pick the chair with the armrest. I never pick the low slouchy couch.
I don't either.
Never.
You know why else I pick a chair with an armrest? Because I like to swivel.
Oh, the swivel
and
is
rock,
so good.
And I like to cock an elbow on the back of the chair.
That's so good.
Like
this is so good. So
Yeah.
confident.
I'm like super relaxed.
You're a cowgirl. That's basically what that is, right? Like, yes. And so that is a confident gesture. You're claiming space.
Yep.
You have freedom of movement. The other reason why I love a swivel is because we should be fronting with whoever we're talking to.
Oh,
Right.
so you by that, if you're listening again, you're seeing all this on the YouTube version of this episode, but if you are in a meeting and you're in a swivel chair, we want you to turn your chair and face the person who's actually talking.
Exactly. It is a nonverbal sign of respect when you swivel your chair towards them. You're literally saying, I'm going to angle my entire body to get on the same page as you. Tell me more. I'm aligned with you. And physically, from a research perspective, when we are aligned on the same parallel lines as someone else, we can see each other's body language better. We literally feel like we're on the same page. And so the swivel chair adds to that. And then if you can add armrests, that immediately broadens us and immediately gives us more perceived and felt confidence.
You know what's super great also for someone, especially if you're listening and you're shy, you're introverted, you don't like the attention on you. These are nonverbal things you can do that, based on the research,
Yes.
demonstrate that you're confident, that you're influential, that you are respectful,
Yes.
that you are powerful despite the fact that you're not saying anything.
That's it.
What am I doing with my hands?
Okay, so they actually studied this. They took videotapes of leaders speaking, and they had participants rate the leaders on their charisma, specifically their gestures. And they had all kinds of gestures in these videos. They found there was one single gesture that people rated as the most charismatic, and it is, I call it the power pose for the hands. It is a steeple.
Okay.
So a steeple is when you touch the tops of your fingertips slightly together and you keep space between your palms. It is the most calm, broad gesture for your hand. You can do it with an armrest. You can do it on the table. Right now, just be careful. Don't drum. That's evil drumming. That's very Mr. Burns.
Okay,
a
so
Simpsons
you're not
reference.
tapping your
We're
fingers.
We're not drumming. We're not drumming our fingers.
And
That's
if
very
you're
evil.
listening, everybody, and I want you to touch your pinky to your pinky, like literally make a triangle with your hands.
Just try this with me for a second.
Yeah.
It will actually make you feel more grounded when you do it.
It's almost like you got like superpower running from one hand to the other hand. You're like, zzz, you know, just as
And
you
the
put it there.
powers unite.
Correct.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So it's a very relaxed gesture. Now, whenever I teach a cue, there are 97 cues, right? Not every cue is going to work for you. That's okay. I recommend, please try it 3 times in 3 different situations. Try it in a meeting, try it on a Zoom call, try it on a date, try it with a friend. If you've tried it 3 different times with 3 different people and you still feel ridiculous, you might not want to use it, right? I don't want you to feel silly.
What's the second recommendation for your hands?
Second recommendation, so okay, I love a steeple. The other one is a very small little subtle gesture, but it's a cue of excitement. So leaders, highly effective people, are cueing people around them to know how to feel. Cues tell others how they should treat us. So this one's my really good one. This one's my favorite.
What is it?
It's this.
Oh, you're rubbing your hands together.
Yes.
So literally just rubbing your hands together as you're talking.
So like when I'm about to say something, oh, this is really good, this is really exciting, even that small little gesture should be like, ooh, this is going to be good. I don't know why. I think it's because we warm our hands this way, but a very subtle one is if you're about to share something good or tell someone, oh, this is such a good little story. That one little cue, it shows excitement, it triggers excitement. So you can often go from the this to the this.
You know what I just got as you were doing that?
What?
It's almost like, that's the motion you make when you're swiveling a stick to do a fire.
Make a fire. Oh, yes. So it's
So
like
it's
literally generating heat.
Yes.
We're
That's
literally-
so cool is what you're signaling.
We're generating conversational heat if you're going to go with the metaphor.
Wow.
Now, the common line really, the bigger takeaway here is visible hands.
Okay.
So every gesture I could teach you is visible hands. It's a palm flash, it's a steeple, it's a gesture towards you. Visible is bare minimum. So highly effective people, they claim space with their shoulders and their arms. They have their hands visible because they want to show intention. Some gestures communicate 400% more information. Like if I were to say 3, you're more likely to believe my 3 than if I were to say 3 and hold up 5. So we just believe hands more often. So if I were to say, I have 3 really important things to tell you.
I'm looking at her
You're
hands.
gonna be like, it's 5,
and she's
Vanessa.
holding up as you're listening at all 5. Well, is your thumb a finger? Like, I don't even know. It's like you're like all 5 fingers.
Yes, a thumb is a finger.
Okay.
Yes. By the way, hold up 5, but say 3.
3.
Horrible.
You just
Can't do it.
It doesn't. I'm trying to do it as you're listening. Why
Try
don't you
it,
try to do it
So
while you're
everyone
listening?
Say, I have 3 ideas, but hold up 5.
I have 3 ideas.
Horrible.
Horrible.
Why?
I don't know.
I know. I'm going to tell you. That was a rhetorical question. I'm going to tell you. I was asking why to myself. So here's why. Is because it is very hard to lie with gesture. We are very used to lying with our words. And so it's very easy to say 3, 5, easy. It is very hard to lie with gesture. So if I were to say I have a really big idea, and I were to hold up my hands like this in a very small, like I'm holding a little dime or a penny, you would say, Vanessa, it's small. So our brain subconsciously knows this. We are more likely to believe a gesture over a word.
Interesting.
That is why highly competent people are so good with their gestures, is they're basically signaling to you, I believe in my content so much. I know my stuff so well that I can speak to you on 2 tracks.
Mouth and hands.
Yes. And so another kind of expert levels bottom is keep them visible. Keep your hands visible, out of pockets above the desk, right? I like to greet hands first. Second is, can you be explanatory? Can you add a punctuation or an underline or a highlight? If you're going to say that you have a big idea, show me how big it is. Is it beach ball big?
So for you listening, I really want you to get this. You might want to check out the YouTube version so that you can watch this. But as she was saying, big idea, she literally held her hands out to be demonstrative with her hands. And it does communicate
Underlines.
belief. And it's like you're right. It's like taking a highlighter with your meat mitts.
That's it.
And just being like, here we go.
Yes.
I believe in this.
And it's purposeful, right? So it's not just gestures for the sake of gestures where I'm just jazz handsing it.
Yeah.
It's like underlining purposefully. It's like giving someone an outline.
That's so cool. So how do highly influential people communicate?
Okay, so highly influential people, they communicate with their nonverbal, their vocal, and their verbal. We talked a little bit about body language. Last time we talked a lot about vocal, but we want to keep our voice nice and low. We also want to make sure we're not using vocal fry. So vocal fry is when we're like this. If you hear yourself using vocal fry, just speak louder.
Okay.
Volume immediately gets rid of vocal fry. So if you hear yourself going into that pattern where it's like a sizzling pan, just speak a little bit louder. Same thing if you hear someone using vocal fry, you can ask them to speak up.
Got it.
So nonverbal, we talked about. Vocal, we just talked about. We also talked about a lot in the last episode. Definitely go listen to that one. That was a fun one. Verbal. Verbal is the last big section. So we talked about labels. One thing I didn't talk about is how highly influential people use verbal patterns that change people's behavior. Here's one of my favorite studies. I think about this study all the time. What they did is they brought participants into their lab and they split them up.
Into their lap?
Lab.
Oh, I thought it was like, wow.
It's not that kind of
this
study,
is
Mel.
a study.
I don't know what they'd be able to do in their labs, but we were talking about body language. So into their lab. And I should be careful with that word. Now that you're doing it, it reminded me of that. Okay.
I think we were talking about body language, so I'm thinking about
You're
bodies.
like, people were sitting in their laps? That's so interesting. We should do all of your interviews like that. Okay. They brought people into their lab and they split them up into 2 different groups. The first group came into the lab, they were greeted by the researcher, and they were told, today you are playing the community game. And they went to explain the rules of the game and they played the game. The second group came into the same lab, the same researcher, And they were told, today you are playing the Wall Street game. But the trick was the games were exactly the same. Everything was the same except for that single word cue. So being told you were playing the community game versus being told you were playing the Wall Street game.
So Wall Street versus community.
That's it. Everything else was exactly the same.
Okay.
Can you guess what happened?
People that were in the Wall Street game immediately like turned it on like, I'm going to win. And people who were told we're going to play the community game, they turned it on to be connected.
Okay.
Am I right?
You're exactly right, but the outcome is a little bit sadder than that.
Okay.
But the outcome is sad. You're right. The Wall Street people wanted to win, which means they shared an average of 1/3 of their profits. In the community game, people shared an average of 2/3 of their profits.
Wow.
In other words, people who were primed, where they heard the word Wall Street, thought about sharing or being less communal. So they didn't want to share as much. They were primed by the idea of Wall Street.
Wow.
Whereas people who were told they were playing the community game actually acted more collaboratively. This is an incredible study because it shows that we can change someone's behavior with one single word. So when you think about your calendar invites, what kind of calendar invites are you sending? I don't know about you, but I usually get call, meeting, one-on-one, conference, video call, Zoom. Those are sterile. They're not priming anyone for anything. You are actually telling someone, keep your brain on autopilot. This meeting will be exactly the same as all the others. What I want you to do is think about how can you play the community game? What do you want someone to feel, think, and behave like when they see that invite pop up in their inbox?
What do you recommend?
Okay, collaborative session, 2024 wins, goal meeting, mastery meeting, team session, team collaboration, creative hour, right? Like they're not long, but we're using words that are actually setting people up to feel and behave in those ways. I don't know about you, I open my calendar multiple times a day. So if you send a calendar invite that is purposeful, that is actually setting them up for success, you are priming them to feel and act that way every single time they open their calendar. That breaks autopilot.
I love that. We are implementing that. I'm yelling at everybody now. We're implementing that.
Yes, and no more emails that say subject follow-up. Follow-up is the worst subject line in the history. Worst one in history. Yes.
Vanessa, I just love learning from you. And speaking of learning, I want you, if it's in reach, to grab a pen and a piece of paper while we take a short break to hear a word from our sponsors. Also, make sure you share this episode with somebody that you love, because a little bit later in the episode, we are going to be playing a game that Vanessa says will change the way you think about productivity and focus forever. Stay with us. Welcome back. I'm Mel Robbins. I'm so thrilled that you're here. You and I are learning so much about leveling up and the habits of people who are highly influential. That's you. And so, Vanessa, for someone, though, that is, again, nervous about saying the wrong thing, are there certain words that people use that are highly influential, or are there things that they talk about with other people?
So for people who are nervous about what they're saying, what I would say is, you don't have to say more. You just have to be more purposeful with what you say. I think that's a common misconception of people who are nervous or introverted, is they don't want to have to say more to explain themselves. Actually, using very purposeful behavior cues in your language allows you to say less. Like I can say, let's have a collaborative session tomorrow, and then invite you to that. You know exactly what that's going to be, right? I don't need to write a whole agenda. I don't need to have to explain it. You immediately know. Like I don't have to say, so tomorrow I would really like us to open up and talk and maybe share some No, all you have to say is, let's do a collaborative session tomorrow. Or that's highly warm, right? If you want to be highly competent, let's do a brainstorm session tomorrow. Or everyone, tomorrow we're doing a power through day. Tomorrow's a day we're going to whip out those tasks. We're going to do it together. We're going to conquer some of those tasks. We're going to be super efficient.
I'm wearing sweats. Let's go.
Those
I'm ready to run.
That changes your perception of the day. It also changes how you would act in the day. There's another study that there was many studies that show the power of our words, especially behavior cues, but there's one other that I think demonstrates really the potential here. So what they did is they had participants come into their lab and they gave them a basic task, like an intelligence task. And they had two different versions of the task. One had a set of sterile, formal directions, the kind of directions you always see. Please complete the following to the best of your ability. The second group had the same set of directions, but they sprinkled in a couple of achievement-oriented words. So according to the research, achievement-oriented words are words like master, success, win, achieve. They wanted to know if just sprinkling in a couple of those words could change the way people performed. Here's what they found. Everyone who got the achievement-oriented words performed better on the task. They also, this is more important, spend double the amount of time working on the task. They had more motivation to do the task, and they enjoyed the task more. This shows us that as humans, we are desperate for these cues. We want people to tell us how to act and think and behave or set us up for success because that gives us motivation. When we hear a word like win or see a word like win, it makes us think more like winners, and that is a gift. It is a gift to use these words, to not be on autopilot with your emails, to not be on autopilot with your calendar invite. The onus is on us to wake up our words, to take interactions off of autopilot, and to gift people motivation.
I'm ready to win. Let's go.
That's it.
I'm ready to win. Come on, Vanessa. Let's go. What about self-talk? How does a highly influential person talk to themselves? I mean, are they super critical? Because I know a lot of successful people that are very hard on themselves.
So one, I think that a very simple research-backed answer would be use more behavior cues on yourself, right? Use words like win for yourself. Like,
give me an example.
Okay, on my calendar, when I have to do my research, I'm in a research year right now, I don't label it Vanessa block, right? Or Vanessa writing block, right? That is so boring, and that primes me to be like, oh, a research block, a writing block. No, it's Vanessa winning morning. Get it done, Vanessa. Power up, Vanessa, right? All my alarms in my phone are like super motivational of the words that I literally want to see. So one is in your own calendar invites, in your own alarms, in your own self-talk. The more that you can use these cues for yourself, the better. That is my research-backed answer, and it works. It does work.
How can you talk to anyone with ease and confidence?
Yes. Okay, first of all, transparency. So like I think the more that we can talk about our own behavior, the better.
Okay.
But I think that how we talk to anyone with ease and confidence is by breaking autopilot. Conversations become stilted. Conversations become difficult when both of us are on autopilot. This sounds like this. Hey, how's it going? Good. Busy, good. Right? Busy, good. Oh, how about you? Yeah, busy, but good. Mm-hmm. How are the kids? Oh, good.
That's a fake smile, Vanessa. Right? I can tell.
Right. So I think that well-meaning people, they ask what I would call safe questions or autopilot questions, and they get the same answers. And so the only way, I think, to talk to people with ease and confidence is to break autopilot, and it's uncomfortable.
Is there a question or two that you like?
Yes. So if you are willing with me, anyone who's listening, to stretch a little bit, I think we have to break out of the how are you, what do you do, where are you from? In fact, I would like you to go on a diet with those questions. You are no longer going to ask those questions. You are immediately triggering autopilot with those questions. If I ask someone, what do you do? They've answered a million times before. Instead, I want you to ask, what's been good? What's good? What's good this week? Or you asked me this at the interview, working on anything exciting recently? So what's good? Working on anything exciting recently? And specifically with what do you do? That question is problematic for me because I think that what you're really asking is what are you worth? You're trying to put someone in a box. And I get it. We want to understand where people come from. It is much kinder to ask someone working on anything exciting these days.
Well, it also means if you're like working on applications to go to school or you're working on training for something or I'm working on not losing it with my children.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
That question gives someone permission to tell you what they are excited about. And that is a gift. So when you ask, what do you do? You're actually putting someone in a very specific box. So replace how are you with what's good or what's been the highlight of your week or what's the highlight of your day. Replace what do you do with working on anything exciting or have anything coming up that's exciting or have any fun plans coming up. They're subtle switches, but they make a huge difference because when you ask someone working on anything exciting, their brain has to search for excitement. You just gave them a gift of optimism. You just asked their brain to think of good things, which is such a beautiful way to interact. As opposed to, I hear a lot, been busy? Oh no, never ask me busy. Because if you ask someone, been busy?
Oh, now I think about how busy
you are.
It's so true.
It's so true.
And then I literally talk about how busy I am.
Yes. So
Instead of the thing that I'm excited about.
exactly. And it actually triggers this negative loop of only talking about bad things. So 1, never open on autopilot. 2, try to talk about things that are exciting. And 3, if you can, you want to level up the conversation.
How?
So this doesn't mean, I think a big mistake that people make is they ask too deep questions too quickly. So like, I don't want you to be like, what's your biggest dream in life? Right? Like an introvert is going to run. They're going to run. By the way, as a note for introverts, there's a question. So we did a research experiment, a speed networking experiment, where we assigned 6 conversation starters to our speed networkers. It was 500 speed networkers across 3 different events, and we had them rate the quality of their conversation. We found some conversation starters bounced to the top and some went to the bottom. There was one that almost broke my data. And it was because people either gave it a 5, they loved it, they thought it was the best conversation they ever had, or they gave it a 1, they hated it. And I was like, what is going on? Do you know what question it was?
Of course. What is it?
What's your story?
Oh, I hate that question.
Okay.
I'm like, which version of me? I feel like I'm in a therapy session. Or like, what?
Okay. So introverts and ambiverts hate this question.
What's an ambivert?
Oh, an ambivert is someone who's in between introvert and extrovert. They're called social introverts or introverted extroverts. So an ambivert, I know that's you. Yeah. So you're an ambivert. So it's someone who can dial up into extroversion when needed, but you also need a lot of recharge time. Like I'm sure you're going to like, after a really social event, you have to like, have nothing. That's why you live far away, right? Like same with me. Like I don't want to talk to anyone for certain parts of the day. So ambiverts need a lot of recharge time. They can be extroverted when they need to. So introverts hate that question because they're like, am I in a therapy session? This is horrible. Extroverts love that question. They're like, how much time do you have? Should I start with the childhood or my college years? Like they are thrilled to tell you. So in leveling up conversation, be very careful with that question. If you're with an extrovert, that's a gift. They love that question and you want to give them lots of time to talk about themselves. If you're with an ambivert or introvert or you're not sure, for heaven's sakes, do not ask that question. You are going to level down that question. So instead, I recommend safe questions. The highest rated questions in our little experiment were, what personal passion project are you working on? What was the highlight of your week? Those were 2 of the highest rated
the second
questions,
one.
right? Or have any fun plans coming up? Those are still safe, right? If you just met someone or you're just catching up, those are all safe questions. So that's how you want to think very carefully about the questions you ask.
I love that. You have really interesting research about where you sit at work.
Yes. Okay. So this is not my research, but it's research that I found that I was like, how does everyone not know about this? 58,000 working hours across 11 different companies. So this is a massive amount of data. And these are companies in different industries. Okay. What they found was that if you sit within 25 feet of a high performer, you improve your own performance by 15%.
Wow.
Yes. What this implies is that our performance is contagious, that highly effective, highly charismatic people are contagious in a good way. They actually lift others up. When we see someone who's sitting in nice, high confident body language, we are also more likely to sit in confident body language. So all of these cues are actually making you be the contagious high performer, but you also can hang out with high performers. And so I think that power, you can get it from others, great, and you can also give it to others, both.
I also understand that the research shows that the negative is true, that if you sit in the wrong place or near like the wrong person, how do you even know? Like, so what are we looking for?
If you sit next to a low performer, it decreases your performance by 30%.
What?
Yes. Let me break it down. So this study was done. They brought people into their lab. And again, they split them up into 2 different groups. One group wore a sweatsuit. That's where they catch the sweat. Yeah, it's going to get grosser. Just wait. They wear a sweatsuit and they had them run on the treadmill and sweat into this sweatsuit.
Okay.
This is pretty gross. The second group wore sweatsuits and then were first-time skydivers. They had them jump out of planes wearing the sweatsuit. Then they had 2 samples of sweat, non-fear sweat and fear sweat.
Okay.
Right? They took these samples and they had unsuspecting participants smell the samples. They had no idea what they were smelling, but they had them smell these sweaty armpits of these folks, and they put them in fMRI machines, and they measured their brain patterns. They found that everyone who smelled the fear sweat even though they had no idea what they were smelling, caught the fear. Their own fear centers lit up. What they think is happening is that we are attuned as humans. If someone else is feeling adrenaline and cortisol, that leaks out and we catch other people's fear. So I think the kind of last channel of this is if you are secretly afraid
at work,
I think that we leak that out in micro cues, small nonverbal cues, chemical cues, and that is contagious. So a lot of this is about getting yourself right first. Your day starting with what gives me energy, what socially gives me energy, what work gives me energy. How can I self-talk to myself to set myself up like a winner? Because I know that if you don't, you become more negatively contagious.
You have also incredible research about specific places you should stand.
Yes.
Where should I stand at a networking event?
Okay, so we did at our speed networking events, we had kind of like a pre-session where we observed the foot patterns of people on this map. We had a map of the event and we tracked where people were walking.
Interesting.
And we noticed patterns across the events. This was across multiple different events, is that there were really good places to stand and there were really bad places to stand. There were social traps and there were like social honeypots where you wanted to stand. Okay, this is the mistake that most people make in networking events. They stand right at the entrance. So they don't know a lot of people. So they get there and they're like, I'm just gonna stand right by the door because I don't know anyone and I'm gonna try to get someone as they come in. This produced the shortest conversations. We literally watched as people had these really little awkward micro conversations. Why? If someone comes into a room, they need to get themselves situated. They might have to go to the bathroom. They want to get a drink. They want to get something to eat. They also want to scope the room themselves. If you pounce on someone, I call it the starting zone. So if you pounce someone in that start zone, anywhere near the door, anywhere near the check-in table, anywhere near the coats, you are going to get someone when they are not ready for a high quality connection. They're going to be like, autopilot, I'm just going to get something to drink. You are not going to be able to make a connection in that start zone. So do not.
1,000% correct.
Right. And that's a mistake that a lot of introverts will make. They stand there because they don't know anyone and they're afraid to penetrate the room. No, it's actually triggering even more awkwardness. You're going to have worse and then an introvert goes, why did I even come? I'm not even having good conversations. And you'll get that sort of deer in the headlight look. If you watch people, I love to sit and observe people. If you watch people when they walk into a networking event, they're very wide-eyed. And that is because from an evolutionary standpoint, they're trying to take in the room. Who do they know? Where's the host? Where's the bathroom? Where do I put my coat? Is there food, right? If someone is pounced on when they're doing that kind of wide-eyed survey of glances, they are literally like chemically not ready yet.
Wow.
Right? They're not settled enough.
Where do I stand?
Okay. So the best place, this is where the longest conversations happens and the most business cards were exchanged, was right as people exit the bar. Here's what would happen. People were nervous. They entered the start zone. Then they go, I got to get a drink. I got to get a drink. Whether that's coffee or tea, whatever. People like to anchor themselves with something in their hand. It gives them something to do psychologically. So they wait in line and they're kind of like waiting. They're thinking, oh, I'm here. And you'll literally physically see as people are waiting in the drink line, like they're like, it's like they're here. Then they get their drink and they turn to the room and you'll notice that's when people are ready to connect. That 10 seconds of I've got my drink in hand, took my first sip and I've turned to the room. They're like, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. If you are standing right there, you're a social savior. Because if you don't find someone to talk to in that couple seconds, you're like, oh, I don't know who to talk to. But if you're right there and you're like, hey, that looks great. What kind of wine did you get? Or, oh, hey, what's good today? Seems like a fun event. You have just saved someone from having the awkward experience of not having anyone to talk to. So right as people exit the bar.
Wow. Have you studied like social events and where would you advise somebody to stand if you're single or, you're going to an event alone?
Yes. If you're going to an event alone, I do highly recommend staying in that exit the bar. The other place for a single person or if you're going to an event alone is in the eye line of the host or the most connected person. Here's why. If the host can see you, you don't have to be in the conversation, but if they can see you and they're like, oh my gosh, Rachel, I've been desperate for you to meet my friend Jasmine. Come on over. You are easily able to be connected to. So I always try to be in the eye line of the host if I don't know where I'm going. Mm-hmm. You also can stand in the eye line of the most extroverted social person because they love to make connections. That is their strength. That is their social strength. That is a gift to an extrovert.
So do you know where you should stand at a wedding?
Oh, I haven't
do.
studied it. Tell me. Oh, yay,
The
tell me.
door that the caterers are coming out of with the trays. That's always where you'll find Mel Robbins. Get over here with the lamb chop meatballs.
Okay, by the way, it's so funny you say that. That is my favorite place to stand because I'm always hangry. And what's funny is when I stand there, I say to the other people, caterers coming out this door, what are you looking for?
Yeah, exactly. Come on over here.
And like,
Get
I
over
will be
here.
a co-conspirator. I'll be like, oh, you're looking at the
Completely.
tomato soup grilled cheese? Got you. I got you. I saw one of those. I got you. You actually become friends with the people who are hangry like you.
Yes, exactly. So what is your favorite productivity exercise? How do we increase our focus?
Okay. So I have a very unique approach to productivity and I want to play a little game.
Let's
you ready
do
to play
it.
a little game? Okay. So if you're listening, if you can take out a pen and paper, that would be great. If not, just use your memory. We'll play a little game together. So what I want you to do, I call this alphabet work. This is my favorite productivity exercise. It's my favorite team building exercise. It should, if you activate it, completely change the way that you work. So at the top of your piece of paper, I want you to write A, B, C, and D with 4 columns.
Okay. So you're just making 4 columns.
Yep.
One says A, one says B, one says C,
Yep.
one says D.
Yeah.
Got it.
A, B,
Okay.
C, D. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to break your tasks and your work energy and your social energy into A, B, C, D work. Your A work, we're going to start there. Your A work is only the tasks that you are better at than most people.
Okay. So A is what I would get an A on.
A is what you would get an A+ on. It
Okay.
gives you energy. You hit flow. You
Okay.
are exceptional at it without any exceptions.
Okay.
And you might even be known for it. So I want you to list different tasks on your A work.
Okay.
I also want you to list some social energy tasks. So where do you thrive? Like, what is your favorite way to socialize? Who are your A people that you just like feel like yourself, you're authentic, they give you energy, you look forward to it? So I want you to put some of those things on there. Tasks on top, energy on the bottom, social energy on the bottom. B.
Yes.
B is where my smart people get tripped up.
What's B?
B is the work you're pretty good at, but you're not the best at it. They're not tasks that you hit flow. They're tasks that you can get through pretty easily. They're not tasks you're known for, but they're not tasks that you're bad at. This is the hardest column, but
Why
it's
is
the
this
most
the
important
hardest?
one. It's because we have to distinguish between tasks that we're exceptionally good at, that we hit flow at, and tasks that we're pretty good at. And smart people have a lot of things on their B list, but not always a lot of things on their A list. Smart people can get away with doing B things for a long time. Same thing with your social energy. So what are some socializing things that you like? You don't love it, you like it, it's okay. You don't feel drained from it, but like you can do it. Same with people, you enjoy spending time with them, but you would have to give a little bit of social energy to spend time with them. So your B people, spend
Okay.
some time doing that. C work.
C.
Okay, C work is work you are average at. You're not known for it. You're a little clunky with it.
Yep.
C work is marked by you're a little embarrassed,
Oh.
like a little bit embarrassed by it,
Okay.
right? You're like, oh, like I'm not so great at that. I wouldn't want people to see it really well. So that's your C work, is your average. D work should be the obvious one. D work is work you are bad at.
Got it.
D is work you are worse than most people at this task. You should not be doing it. You are slower than most people. You make more mistakes in this work. Your D people are also the people who take away your energy. They drain you. They're the people who push your boundaries, who challenge you in a bad way. They're people who you dread seeing. Hopefully that's not a long list. So where do you feel like I am surviving, not thriving? Where do you feel like you just are not your best self? That's D. Okay, here's why this is so important. Your day, your entire day, should be about optimizing your A work and giving away your B, C, and D work. Your entire day should also be, I know, it's a little uncomfortable.
Okay.
Your entire day should be about figuring out the people you work with, what is their A work, and gifting their A work away. A mistake that people make on teams or when partnering up is they partner with people who have the same strengths as them. You want to partner with people, you want to hire people, you want to work with people, you want to learn from people who have different work than you, where their B and C work could maybe turn into your A work. So your day should be about optimizing your A work, learning to see, could I level up my B work? Could I learn something or use a tool to turn a B work into my A work? And how can I give away most of my C and D work?
I mean, this is really cool. I am looking at my list, and as you're doing this and you're listening along, I'm just going to try to recap so that I want to make sure that you get this.
Yes. And if you're willing to give examples, I think it would be very interesting to hear them.
Okay.
I'm happy to give mine too, if that's helpful.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yep.
So do you want to start with A?
A.
Okay.
Yes.
So I am fantastic at giving ideation.
Yes.
Like if you want somebody to open a can of worms and like just start flying ideas and getting everybody off track, call Mel Robbins. I can literally ideate better than anybody on the planet. You think that you're stuck? No, you're not. You think there's no way around it? Yes, there is. You think that there's an obstacles? I see an opportunity.
And I would call that motivational. So ideation and motivational.
Oh my God. And it's
So
also
much.
like in content. What about this? What about that? What about the other thing? What if we did this? Oh, this would be great. Like I'll come out of this episode and I will have 17 different topics for us to then go do something on.
Okay, so here's what's critical. Busy people like you often give that away. So as you get busy and you're doing back-to-back interviews, don't give away the ideation time after your interview. Don't give away content ideation to someone else in your team because that's your A work. And so that can happen as we level up or we become managers is we end up accidentally giving away our best work. So make sure there's someone on your team that you are ideating with.
It's great.
You're not giving it away.
Tracy Mertz sitting over there. Second thing, business development.
I
I have
A or B.
100% close rate in meetings, especially around speaking. 100% close rate. If I have an in-person meeting or Zoom meeting, the deal is done, period.
Okay, so this is really important because what happens when you get busy and successful is you have an agent or manager, right? You're not
Correct.
always in the room.
Correct.
And so that means that you have to hire someone whose A work is that, and they know that if it's a particularly hard close, they can bring you in,
Yep.
right? You cannot give that away.
Creative direction. I just don't have any time for it. So I was a film major in college and just spent my entire college career in an editing room. And I love that. I have zero time for it.
Is there a way you could do it one morning a month?
Probably.
I think that's the question is, do you have enough other A work where it's okay? Or do you want to say, I'm going to carve out one block to charge me?
Probably. Yeah. Well, we're giving, I mean, I do it all the time. I just feel like it's, and then recording. I mean, obviously the skills in terms of being able to just turn on a camera and go and coaching
Yes.
on the fly
Yes.
would be another thing in the A. And then in terms of social, like my top thing is dinner at home.
Love it.
I love
it.
to have dinner at home.
And so you
with
would
people
know,
that I love.
like, no, if you're listening to this and you're hearing Mel talk about this, a recipe for burnout would be if next month you see a week where you happen to have a bunch of dinners out,
Yes.
you would probably at the very end of that week go, gosh, I'm so wiped. I'm so drained. I don't like my life. You begin to question bigger things when actually it was that you did a little bit too much of that C or D work that week. That's okay. We can know that, like if you have a busy travel week, but it's critically important to know your patterns, to know that if you were to miss dinner at home a couple of nights in a row, it would probably trigger your burnout, but you wouldn't know why.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So-
and then in terms of B,
Yes.
I literally put everything else. That is. And then I've got a couple things on C and D, which is I'm horrendous at organizing.
Okay. Yes.
I'm horrendous at being on time. I do not know how to make an Excel sheet. My business partner's job, Christine, is protect the team from Mel. Like protect, not because I'm a jerk, but I destroy structure.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So the recipe for anti-burnout for Mel is looking at your task list for your week, for your day, for your month. Everything that is not in that A column should not be on your list.
Christine, I hear that you need me to create an Excel spreadsheet for you.
Yeah. I am a spreadsheet Disaster.
Yes, disaster. I'm a spreadsheet disaster. You want to see roadkill on a page? Ask me to put something in Excel.
Yes.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hand it over to Sawyer on our team, or Emily on our team, or Dara loves a good spreadsheet and a presentation.
And in the meanwhile, I'm going to make us a lot of likes and views in my interview later
Correct.
today.
I love that. I love that.
Exactly.
That is masterful.
And here's the thing. So if your entire focus is more A work, less B, C, and D work every day, every month, in your general tasks, when you say yes to projects, when you're looking at a project, people tend to think about the end goal, right? For example, so many people tell me, Vanessa, I want to write books. I say, really? Do you love being alone at a computer all day? Do you love that? Oh, you want to write a book? Do you want to spend 3 months writing and then years marketing it? Do you like that? And I always say that because I'm like, let's get real on what you like. If you want to write a book, does your ego want to write the book? Do you want to be able to say you're an author? Do you want to be able to share your words with people? Or do you love writing? Because those are two different things. So for every project, you should do all the tasks, and then how much of those tasks are A, B, C, or D work. Sometimes you have to do D work. Sometimes you have to do C work. Know it. Assertively own it. There is D work on my team where it's all of our D work. And you know what I do? We have a D work day. Say, okay, everyone, we're ordering our favorite lunch. We're pumping some music. It's a D work day. We hate it. Sleep in. We're coming in at 10 a.m. and then we're going to grind it out. We're going to do our D work together. When D work is acknowledged for yourself as well as your team, it helps us feel like, okay, we're in it together. I know what my D work is, and there's some D work I still have to do, and I don't like it. But I know what it is. I build in buffers. I have battery recharge. So it's about energy management.
You know what I also immediately saw is it's like getting everybody, all right, guys, let's all clean up after dinner together.
Same.
Nobody wants to do it. Let's do it together.
But we love eating dinner, so
Yes.
we got to clean it up.
Yes.
And let's turn on music and make it as fast and fun as we can.
So what do highly influential people do at night?
Ooh, at night. I think having a pause moment at the end of the day. Now, I haven't actually studied this, but I think that highly effective people give themselves a lot of time to think. Like when I study historical highly effective people, you'll see that in their daily patterns, they have a lot of space. They're not busy. They're not burnt out. They're not working until the moment they shut their eyes. And so I think the end of the day is a time to look back and be like, oh, good job. I did a lot of A work. Or, whew, I had to do a lot of B work today and I am tired. Or I did not have a good lunch with her. So I think that pausing is the most important thing we can do at the end of the day.
How do highly effective people set goals? How would you recommend, if you want to be really effective and level up your success, that you go about even thinking about your goals for the day or the week or the year or the decade?
ABCD work to break a goal into tasks and timeline is very important. I also think that when you're thinking about your goals, are you going to enjoy the process, the means, as well as the end? I see so many folks who are highly ambitious. They set these big goals. At the end, they'll be happy. And this is those if-then statements, which I think are a killer for burnout and a killer for happiness, which is, if I am a best-selling author, then I will be happy. If I lose 20 pounds, then I will be happy. If I become a mother, then I will be happy. That is a goal that's setting you up for burnout, because you are saying to myself, you cannot be happy until you achieve that goal. And so I think when we're talking about highly effective people, they enjoy the process of getting that goal as much as the goal. So that could be, I want to find workouts I love every day and find workout partners who make me laugh so I can lose 20 pounds.
Yeah, you just sparked something as I was listening to you, because I was thinking, wow, that's a great way to think about it. That I'm going to lose 20 pounds and I'm going to figure out how to have fun and enjoy it as much as I can while I do it.
Yes. Because then if you achieve the goal, fantastic.
Right.
But your goal is actually happy in the moment of actually doing it. So I would say when you're setting goals, what can you do to enjoy the means of that goal so you're not delaying your happiness?
How important is it for a high achiever to have something big that they're working on?
I think essential. I think essential. I think that everyone should have a quest. I think everyone should have a quest. I know it's a very big statement, but all the happiest people I know, the most successful people I know, however you define success, whether that's they're the richest, whether they're the most famous on social media, however you define, they all have some big quest. And that could be traveling to every country in the world. That could be raising 3 children who find their passions. That could be learning to cook. And they have micro quests and big quests. And so I think if you don't have some kind of quest that you're working on right now, it's hard to find meaning. I think meaning is incredibly important for giving you purpose behind your days and your actions.
Amazing. So after law school, so I'm now on Zoloft, thank God, but after law, which helped me tremendously, it was life-saving. It literally, for me, what it did is it just turned down the volume of the negativity in my head. I mean, I understand a tremendous amount now about anxiety and panic attacks and worry. And there's a really significant connection between worry, anxiety, and panic. I believe all anxiety begins with worrying, that your negative thought loop starts going. This is the baby. So when you start to worry about something, the thoughts start to spin, right? And as your thoughts start to spin, your body and your nervous system take notice. Anxiety is simply when worrying starts to get lodged in your body. Your body goes on edge. You guys talk about it all the time, parasympathetic versus sympathetic nervous system. But it begins with a worry. Then your body gets agitated. And when your body gets agitated, I understand the science behind all this now, thankfully, and your stomach starts to feel gurgly. We make the mistake then of letting the worries pick up. Oh shit, my stomach's on edge. That must mean that something bad's going to happen. And that only ticks up the anxiety in your body. And at some point, this gets so pronounced that your body goes, that's it. I'm getting her out of here. Panic attack time. And so when you start to attack the worry loop, that's how you can slow down the anxiety. But I didn't know any of that back in the day. So I was a legal aid attorney. And then my husband, I did that for 4 years. And then my husband got into business school. And we moved up to Boston. And the only job I could get was with a large law firm. And so I worked there for a year. I hated it, Rich. I hated it. Oh my God. I went from being in a courtroom 5 days a week to sitting in a suit in an office writing briefs. Like, again, like this was like penance for the attorney general stunt that I pulled. And luckily I got pregnant. And when I was pregnant with our first daughter, who's now 22, so this is 22 years ago, 1999. When our daughter was born, I had severe postpartum depression. And when I finally came out of it, and I was allowed to be with the baby, like I had to be supervised. It was that scary. And when I came out of it, I turned to Chris at one point and said, I can't go back to that law firm. I do not want to be a lawyer anymore. And for me, he said, how do you know? And I said, I don't ever want to answer the question, what do you do? With, I'm a lawyer. And Chris, he wasn't a Buddhist then, but he was very calm, very grounded, thank God. He looked at me and said, that's great. You realize we've just bought a house and you can't be with the baby full time. She's going to be in daycare. I've done the numbers and you can do whatever the fuck you want, but you have to make $60,000 a year.
Right.
And you have 4 weeks to figure it out. Because that was when I had to go back to the law firm. And so I'll tell you, when you have a problem defined like that, what do you want? I'll tell you what I wanted. I wanted a job in the next 4 weeks that paid me $60,000 a year. If you can define what you want, you can make it happen. I networked like my life depended upon it. And I ended up the night before, Rich, I was supposed to go back to that law firm. I have a habit of ghosting people. Let's just put that on the table. It's the old Mel.
Yeah.
So the night before, I was supposed to go back to, this story is so cringy. I don't write about this in the book. Wait till you hear this. The night before I'm supposed to go back, I get an offer for $55,000. Chris and I are like, okay, we'll make it work. The next day, I go in to my first day back at the law firm where I've been out on paid maternity leave. To walk in the door and quit. And when I walk in, they are hosting a surprise baby shower for me.
Your head must have just lit up with all those thoughts of, I should have ghosted them.
Yes.
I should have just never gone back.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God.
So we have the shower, they have like breakfast for everybody and presents. And then I have to walk into my boss's office and tell her the news.
Mm-hmm.
And she was so shocked. Like, have you ever had that experience where you're talking to somebody and as you're talking, you realize they are managing their facial expression because they don't know what to do?
Right.
So that was really fun.
Yeah.
But it kind of flipped for me because as I went around and said goodbye to people, there was one partner who stood up as I was talking and walked past me and closed the door behind me. And I thought, oh my God, what's about to happen? And he sat back down and said, I hate it here too. If that startup company is hiring, could you give them my name?
Oh my God.
So I thought, okay, I'm going to be okay.
No more bait stamping.
No more bait stamping. So I go to this little tech startup called, at the time it was called eMode. And it was founded by this super, super smart guy, James Currier. And I was like the fifth person in the door, and I was handed a job in 1991 as the director of content, and it was my introduction to digital marketing. Mm. And I spent, a year or two there, and then I went to another digital kind of marketing platform for creative services, and ended up getting fired from that job, which I should have, because I did not know what I was doing. They hired me. I was able to talk myself into a great job, and then clearly within 4 months, had no clue what I was doing. And then I went to another one, and in a lower level, and kept working. And that's when I started going, I'm not really happy. I don't really know what I want to do. I've done the lawyer thing. Now I'm like in digital marketing. What the heck? The first .com bomb happened, and there weren't a lot of jobs. And so I hired a life coach. And the life coach that I hired was teaching a course at the Sloan Business School on life design. And I started working with her. And the piece of the story that I left out is that in 1994, my husband and I started doing all these life improvement courses with a company called Landmark Education in New York City. And so I had like 6 years of Landmark courses under my belt. And I had a ton of training in just ontology, which is the study of being. I had a lot of training as a coach. I had been trained to lead courses for them, but I had never really done anything coaching-wise, and life coaching really wasn't a thing. And so I hired this person to help me figure out what to do with my own life. And a couple sessions in, this person goes, you should be coaching people. I'm like, coaching people? What does that look like? And so it took me about 6 months of training, and finally I was ready to start a life coaching business, and that's what I did.
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And at some point you started doing radio, right?
Okay, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, like,
okay,
I'm seeing like the little beads, along the string
connecting
that are all adding up to, the Mel Robbins of today.
Okay, so here's what happened. So this would have been, I get so lost in the timeline of my life because you know what I feel like? I feel like, do you remember that Looney Tunes cartoon where is it Daffy Duck wanders into a construction site on sleeping medication?
I've told this story before. No, it's
Who is
I think
it?
it's Sweet Pea.
Who the hell is
the
Sweet
little
Pea?
baby in Popeye?
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, and Sweet Pea kind of crawls onto a construction site and onto an I-beam, and then
Yes.
the crane lifts the I-beam
Yes.
up, and the baby is like crawling along the I-beam, and right when the baby's going to fall to its imminent death, the other I-beam swings around and it crawls onto the next one.
That's my life.
And I my life is exactly like that.
That is my life. Like, as you're hearing this, like me tell the story of my career, which is somewhat embarrassing, it's a testament to resilience, though. I literally fail over and over and over again. I lose my way 1,000,000 times before I find myself. And even when I find myself, I eventually feel lost again and go looking for myself again, constantly seeking, constantly growing, constantly failing. And so I start this life coaching business. I love it. It goes incredibly, incredibly well. This would have been like 2002 to like 2000, I don't know, I'm guessing here, 6 maybe. And what ends up happening is a friend of mine emails me, forwards an email to me. And when you look at the chain of when you look at the chain of the forward, what you see at the bottom is there's somebody at Inc. magazine looking to write an article about life coaches. And I immediately scan the thing, and it's a month old. The deadline is passed. I have none of the credentials they're looking for. I have none of the types of clients they're looking for. And I start to go, like we always do, down the list of reasons why I should not respond. Like we're always arguing against ourselves, always holding ourselves back. And I immediately say, wait a minute. What would somebody who's more successful than me do? And I'm like, they'd fucking apply.
Right.
So I take a sip of wine, I start typing like crazy, and I just freeform this hilarious response back a month late with none of the credentials, da-da-da-da-da-da. She writes back the next day and says, I was about to turn the article in. What if I come to Boston next week and trail you?
Wow.
So she comes, she follows me around for a day. She ends up publishing an article. And I'm like, oh, yes. That's right. Because the article released in 2005. I can't believe how old I am. 2005. My God, that's like 16 years ago.
I know, but it seems like yesterday.
And I'm pregnant with our son and our third child. And I'm like, this is going to be amazing. The timing of this article is fabulous. This article is going to print, Rich, and I am going to have an avalanche of clients. It's going to be awesome. The article prints fucking crickets. Not a single client, not a single inbound email, nothing. So I forget about it. I'm out to dinner one night. My phone's ringing. It's a New York number. Like, who the heck is calling me from New York? I pick up the phone, and is this Mel Robbins? Yeah, this is Mel Robbins. Hey, this is Mary Duffy from CNBC. I'm like, oh, hi, Mary Duffy. How are you? Having no idea who she is. She's like, well, I saw the article in Inc. magazine, and we'd like to fly you down and talk to you. So literally a week later, I find myself on a plane down to New York, drive over to New Jersey, walk into the offices. I sit down, and I am in a meeting with the executives at CNBC, and they're in a development meeting. Oh my God, coaching is hot. We think you're amazing. We want to do a show. We want to stick it between Kramer and Donnie Deutsch was on at the time, The Big Idea, and we'd like you to do da-da-da-da-da. I walk out of there with a freaking development deal.
Oh my God. That really is like a sweet pea thing.
Yes, to do a talk show, to do like a call-in advice show for the money audience on non-money topics in between Kramer and Donnie Deutsch.
Wow.
So they decided that, by the way, that never happened. Okay, not the story, but the show. So in the meantime, they are like, we should put you on Donnie's show all the time to start to seed you to our audience. So I'm now being brought down to New York once a week to appear on The Big Idea, Donnie Deutsch's show, as like a panelist. And I am just kind of doing my thing. Meanwhile, something else is happening. There is a show that is being cast by Fox called, it was a business makeover show where they were going to do something like the Gordon Ramsay show with kitchens, right? They wanted to do that with small businesses. Now, mind you, this show has been played out now 1 million times, but I'm talking 2007 here and 2008. This is the time zone that this was happening in. And so I'm now starting to feel like, holy cow, like my freaking gravy train is coming in. I'm not only like in development at CNBC, which means jack shit, by the way. Right. I am now, I don't even know about this yet. So I am, so the show's in development. And the executives at Fox are talking to Donnie Deutsch about hosting the show. I know nothing about it, Rich. I'm just happily life coaching, and I am happily appearing on The Big Idea thinking I am a big shit, which I am not. All of a sudden, my agent calls me and says, because I didn't even have an agent, I had to get one because I didn't know how to negotiate the contract because I was a criminal lawyer, blah, 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 blah. This guy that represented me called me and said, you're never going to believe this. I said, what? He said, there is a guy who runs all of non-scripted, meaning reality programming at Fox. He's responsible for American Idol, the whole deal. And they want to talk to you about hosting a reality show for Fox that's a business makeover show. I'm like, you're kidding me. And he said, no, they want you on a plane tonight out of Boston. I'm like, you're kidding me. So I pack up. I go to this is a hilarious story. You ready? Brace yourself.
Yeah.
So I pack up. I go to Logan. It's 2007. I'm terrified of flying. I'm wearing sneakers, a sweatpants, a sweatshirt. I have a roll-on suitcase that has the single best suit I own and a pair of high heels in it because you have to dress the part. Like interviewing is all about walking in as the person. I have my makeup in there. I'm ready to go. The meeting is at 8:30 in the morning in LA. I get on this plane and I am sitting in my seat, breathing through my breathing exercises because I had not invented the 5-second rule yet, as I'm having a panic attack. And all of a sudden it dawns on me, I've left my suitcase at the Starbucks in the airport.
Oh, no.
I have the interview of my life tomorrow morning.
Right.
In
By
LA.
the time you land in LA, you can't go to the store.
It's midnight.
Yeah. You're toast.
Yeah. So I get up early. I go to the front desk of the hotel they've put me in, the nicest hotel I've ever been in. I feel already like the world's biggest fraud. I don't belong here. I am in pit-stained t-shirt and dirty sweats. My hair is greasy as hell because I have literally been sweating all night thinking about what I'm going to do. And I said, is there anything open? Do you have anything in Lost and Found that I can borrow? I don't even want to steal it. I just need to wear it. Nothing. He's like, oh, actually, there is a Target that is on your way to the place that you're going to go that opens at 8. So the car service picks me up. I tell them to beeline it to Target. I ran through that Target like I was in one of those shopping spree game shows. Black pants, black shirt, black high heels, dry shampoo, running. Like a little like thing, like the foundation thing, running, run out. I change in the back seat of the car. All this, I snap across the heels because the heels are connected. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I get out of the car and I realize I have grabbed a size or 10 heels and I wear a size 8. So I'm now in like 3-inch high flip-flops that are going as I'm walking. And I shuffle my way down the thing and I walk into the meeting and I land the role. And this should have been the last time I ever did television because I have been screwed all 3 times I did TV, except for CNN.
So what happened? Did that show never
Thankfully, it never aired because this is what happened. When I landed the role was to basically do extreme office makeover. You take a struggling business and you get to have the extraordinary job of making over the whole thing. Everything from training employees to the whole physical space itself. Remember the extreme home makeover and they'd kind of move the bus? And so that was the show concept. 4 months later, when we were ready to tape the show, they had brought on some big names in reality, Endemol, 51 Minds, and the show had completely changed. And it was now a show called Someone's Gotta Go. And I was told that I would be firing people from real jobs on national TV on a reality show.
Wow.
Yeah. And I...
Welcome to Hollywood.
It's not what I signed up for, and I love helping people. And so I remember calling my husband sobbing from the hotel room and calling my agent sobbing, I can't do this, I'm quitting. And he's like, I don't think you understand what you've gotten yourself into. There's a crew of 150 people. There's Fox and 2 massive production companies. They have already cast the entire season, Mel.
And it's an unbelievable opportunity. I mean, essentially,
if you like that kind of thing,
back in Boston, coaching however many people, and nobody calling you after that article came out.
But I was happy.
Yeah,
like I think that's the thing is that we chase the next bigger thing. And all these experiences are amazing, but what was immediately apparent when this train left the station is, this is not a train I wanted to be on. And so we shot the first 2 episodes, and it was the people were lovely, but it was a horrible experience. It was the typical reality show. They put you in a bubble. They take everybody's phones. They take the television sets out of the rooms that people are staying in. And again, this was 2007. This is not like when everybody's watching Love Island and we all know what the reality show thing is. And these were people that had signed up thinking they were getting a makeover. So the people who had signed up for the show, the business owners, were actually told that somebody was getting fired in the opening scene because they wanted to capture the authentic reaction.
That's awful.
And if you're a person that, for me, it was never about doing this for show. I thought that I was on a show that was going to help businesses. And look, I realized that a lot of times you got to fire people to help your business. But that's not at all what I wanted to do. And we were teetering on a recession. And at the same time, my husband's restaurant business was starting to face some real challenges, as restaurant businesses often do. And so the thought of actually going in and pushing a small business owner over the edge on national television was gut-wrenching. We shot 2 episodes. I don't know how I made it through it. And then luckily, again, the I-beam comes over, and as I'm falling, I'm caught. The legal department at Fox said, the recession is coming on. This is the wrong show at the wrong time. And this is tabled. And so instead of airing it on January 6th, on my husband's 40th birthday, with American Idol as the lead-in.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Holy shit.
I dodged that, but then got handed...
Life would have been very different if that show aired for you, I think.
I think my career would have been over.
You think?
I do. Well, look, I mean, everybody can
the
remake themselves over and over and over again. But
you would have been vilified.
And I didn't believe in what I was doing.
You would have to kind of wear the mantle of, the evil person who delivers the hatchet.
Yeah. Like if you're not vested in it, you can't defend it. And, if I believe in what I'm doing, I will fight anybody to the death over it. But I didn't believe in what I was doing. That's why it was the kiss of death.
I didn't realize you had all these television experiences prior.
So I'm not even done.
Yeah.
So what happens next is I go, oh, thank God. And then the agent lawyer person calls me and says, well, I have some bad news. And I said, what's that? And they said, the executives at Fox want this to air. And you're locked under contract, so you can't do anything for the next year. And I thought I was all smart because I negotiated a deal where I had more of a back end, and I only got paid as the episodes aired. So I found myself unemployed. And I felt like such an idiot that I didn't even have the confidence to go back to coaching people. And it was at this point that my husband's second and third restaurant started to fail. The liens hit the house, and I was 41 years old, a former lawyer turned digital marketing failure, who became a happy and successful life coach, who then got too big for her britches and stepped into television, got handed one kind of experience after another. And now I'm 41 years old and I have no idea what to do with my life or what I should do. And I feel like a complete failure. And at the same time, my husband's restaurants, which we've secured with our house and our life savings and our kids' college funds, are going under. We're $800,000 in debt. I'm unemployed. And it was certainly at that moment the worst moment in my life.
So this is like 2008?
Yeah. Lousy year for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Housing crisis.
Not a good year for us either. Yeah, it was brutal. And that's a phase that was pretty protracted, right? You guys really went through it. And the more I learn about, what went down for you, it's kind of amazing to me. I mean, we can talk about all the entrepreneurial success, et cetera, but more importantly, that your marriage survived this because you guys were at loggerheads.
Oh,
big time.
Big time. Because it's a lot easier to be angry than to be afraid. And so when the shit hit the fan in my life, even though I had made a ridiculous number of mistakes, many of which I've been talking about with you, I reacted to this crisis in my life and my marriage and in our finances like a lot of high-functioning adults by screaming at my husband and drinking myself into the ground.
Like any respectful person would do.
Why?
Right.
It was a low moment. Look, I think that you know when you hit rock bottom. You'll know when you hit rock bottom because you finally hit something solid within yourself. And what happened for me is I spent 6 months screaming at Chris and drinking like crazy. And, it was a terrible period in our lives. Our kids even remember it. This is the part that sucks. They remember coming downstairs in the morning and I'm still asleep in the chair in the living room. They remember Chris being angry all the time. They remember sort of the standoff. Like, it's one thing to be roommates with your partner. It's another thing to be in a standoff, which Chris and I were. And, it wasn't Chris's fault. This is the restaurant business. I mean, this is the risk of entrepreneurship. It's not like he went into business and was like, let's just fuck this up and go $1 million. That's not at all what happened.
Yeah.
You pick locations and some are great and some suck. And if you do that at the second location, you're going to be in trouble with your business model. And what happened for Chris, and we're still unpacking this to this day, is that he, as the business started to fail, started to marry that with his own identity and think that he was a failure.
You talk about that in the new book.
Yeah.
And his self-identification with that failure being very personal, whereas his investors didn't see it that way. They realized this is a calculated risk.
Yep.
And you, in turn, seeing Chris through the lens of that failure, such that no matter what he did, whether he's mowing the lawn or taking the kids to the park or, coaching a sports team, was all indications of that failure as opposed to contributing to the family welfare.
Right. I mean, it took a number of years. I mean, basically what ended up happening is, as the liens were hitting the house and the bankruptcy letters were arriving and Chris was scrambling with his business partner to pull the business out of the wreckage, which, by the way, they ultimately did, and ended up selling off the units. Not for great success, but they certainly did not provide the return on the investment that they had hoped, but they mitigated a tremendous amount of loss and risk.
Yeah.
And the thing that I think a lot about is that, Chris's business partner has a way more optimistic, what I call high five attitude. And he was able to separate his identity from what had happened in the business. And for whatever reason, Chris just couldn't. And so he left the business in 2014 and just really, really, it's been a long process for him to separate who he is from what happened in that business. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.